delete that, delete ATL Scoop. Delete it all. ATL Scoop had us on it though with an iguana on the front fucking patio.
Yeah. Oh, when?
Somebody had an iguana on the
the bearded dragon thingy?
Yeah.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah. Get it all out. Alright. Hey guys.
So it's recording?
Yeah, go. Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Salt Your Pasta Water podcast. We're just here with a bunch of cool people from all over Atlanta and basically all over the country. And we're just going to talk about whatever we feel like talking about at any time of the day. So with me today, actually, hold on, let's start that again. Hey guys, welcome to Salt Your Water. Jesus Christ.
I felt on camera. There you go.
No, it's only the first one. Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Salt Your Pasta Water podcast. My name is Chef Pat Pascarella. I am the chef and owner of a few restaurants in Atlanta, one of them being the White Bull and the other one being Guarana on Piedmont Heights. We're here today just to chat about anything we feel like chatting about. So today, on our episode, we have Chef de Cuisine from the White Bull, Pat Siciliano, and we have the general manager of the White Bull, Anthony Panzica. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you for having us.
How you doing, Chef?
How are you? So let's start with Pat because I think you have a very interesting story, especially since most of it has to do with me. So tell me something about yourself, Pat. Where did it all start for you? How did you get into cooking? Where did everything come from? Where's your inspiration come from? Start from the beginning and let's go.
Yeah, of course. It started way back to starting as a busboy in...
Where'd you grow up?
Stamford, Connecticut. First restaurant I ever worked at was thanks to you, Chef. It was Bella Luna on Hope Street.
Well, thanks to Corey and Angelo. Shout out to Bella Luna and Corey and Angelo.
Yeah, Corey Falcone, Angelo. Yeah, so starting out there as a busboy, you know, doing what I had to do, you know, at 14 years old, you know.
14, dude.
14.
That's good. How old are you now?
28.
Look at that.
Long
Half
time.
Your life you've been working in the restaurant industry.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, then like as a 14-year-old kid making, you know, it was like $80 a night as a busboy, I was just like, wow, that's crazy. And then eventually, you know, I saw you back there in the kitchen, how much fun you were having.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you busting tables and then just being like, yo, let me cook.
Yeah. It was just like I wanted to make fried calamari so bad. That was like one of the first things.
So real funny story about fried calamari. I'm sorry to cut you off, but so how it started for me, right, was I was 13 and I was at a birthday party and Corey, owner of Bella Luna, was there, and Anthony, my really good friend at that point, was there, and Anthony was like, hey man, my uncle needs somebody, just opened a restaurant, I need somebody to wash dishes on Sundays. I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Fuck, let's go. So I'm sitting there, I'm talking to Corey. You remember Corey, like, you know, big, bald, jacked, half Italian, half Jewish dude. And he's like, listen, kid, you know, I ain't paying you too much, $50. I was like, nah, man, I ain't gonna cut it. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, 50 and an order of fried calamari. And that's it, man, done. $50 an order of fried calamari later, and I'm in the restaurant business. Go ahead.
Nice. Yeah, and you know, seeing how much fun you were having, how much fun the guys were having back there, and I'm just like, man, you know, they're just back there, you know, cursing at each other, talking shit, and I'm just like, that looks like fun.
Yeah.
So then one day I was just like, what do I got to do to get in there? And then both you and Corey were like, well, you're gonna start on dish like everybody else, you know. And that's the thing too. Like I feel like this day and age,
Yeah, it's missing.
It's missing. Not everyone is starting from the absolute bottom.
They want to. You got a lot of these young kids that are coming in the industry and they want to go from 0 to 60 and they want to do it right away. And I think that's the problem with a lot of the restaurant industry. We'll talk about that later, but what's happening and what's going to happen in the future, right? I think that, you know, I talk about it all the time. I think that culinary school is a waste of time, and I think that nobody should go to culinary school. I think you should come and work for chefs like us, like Chef Elliott from Grana, like a bunch of other chefs here in Atlanta, and let us train you, let us teach you. I mean, there's so much more you're going to learn working for us than you are from Chef so-and-so from, you know, CIA Culinary Institute. That, to be honest with you, like, you know, I mean, everybody passes. You know what I mean? In life, not everybody passes. Yeah. So, keep going.
Yeah. And then, you know, starting in dish, you know, shout out to the best dishwasher ever in the game, Berto. That dude was a machine in showing me, just, you know, trade secrets of being a dishwasher, I guess, and just like, you know, making sure everything was good. And staying organized, and that obviously helped develop into working in the kitchen. And then, you know, one day, I guess it was short-staffed one day or something like that at Bella Luna, and you know, you were just like, hey man, let's get you on, you know, salad station, making calamari and all that stuff, making caprese salads.
Yeah.
So I got in there, you know, started developing my knife skills, you know, started learning, you know, what went with what, you know, like what different sauces. I learned what a demi-glaze was, learned the difference between marinara and the tomato sauce that was there and all that stuff.
Which I hate marinara. But
Yeah. And then just like seeing, like learning that, you know, adding cold butter to a sauce emulsifies, you know, figuring all that crazy stuff out. And just as a young kid, I'm mind blown by all this, and that's what really captured my, you know, inspiration. And
do you feel like you'd be where you are right now in life if it wasn't for the restaurant business?
no, I have no idea what I would be doing.
Do you, not just that, but do you feel like your mental health, your mental stability, everything that you do revolving life would be as far ahead as you are in your personal life if it wasn't for the restaurant business?
Well, yeah, I think the restaurant business definitely matured me at a
Well, it
young
grows
age.
you up quick.
Yeah, it matured me at a really young age.
So funny story is, you know, you and I had the same path, right? I mean, so, you know, we both started at the same restaurant. We both started exactly the same way. I started as a dishwasher, and then I got the call up one day because one of our chefs wasn't feeling well. So Corey comes up to me and goes, "It's your time to shine, kid. Let's go." And I would talk shit all the time, like, I can cook this, I can cook that. And then it wasn't until that day where it was like, dude, it's time to put up or shut up. Do you want to do this or not? And for me, it was different, right? So like, from the first time I went to Italy when I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be a chef, right? Just the type of food that they were eating there and the way everything tasted is like, I always remember that, right? So like for me, my entire life, it's always been, how do I make this dish taste like the way I had it back in the day? Like when Anno and our grandmother, she passed away, but when Anno used to make gnocchi, cavadillo, all that stuff, right? In my mind, it's like, how do I make that tomato sauce taste like that again? How do I, and brings me back. So it's all like, at the end of the day, you know, we talk about it all the time, but for me, it was always fine dining. That was my thing, right? And now it's all about nostalgia. How do I transport you back to Italy, to eating that, you know, eggplant parm that so-and-so's grandmother made? You know, like when you go to Italy, I mean, we saw, our best meals were not in restaurants. Our best meals were in somebody's grandmother's basement.
Yeah.
And those were always the best ones. It's the same exact reason, like when, we say it all the time. I love it when guests invite me over to their house for dinner because I don't want to go out to dinner with them. I want them to show me what they got. Just, this is for everybody that ever invites me to their house. Do not make me pasta when I come to your house, okay? For the love of God. There's only very few people that are allowed to do that for me. But I think it's pretty amazing, and a lot goes to show for somebody like Corey and like Angelo, where they took us at very young ages and molded us to be better. You know, it's funny now, Corey and Angelo and I, we mess around all the time, and you know, we talk shit to each other about like the stuff that he said and stuff I said and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, you know, those two guys know more than anything that I love them more than anything, and I owe a lot to those people. You know what I mean? Like, I owe a lot to Corey, I owe a lot to Angelo. I mean, we weren't family, but they treated us like family. You know what I mean? Like, they took care of us. Like the first, and when we talk about Anthony in a second, but the first cigar I ever smoked was with Corey, and now I love cigars. You know what I mean? Like the first really good bottle of wine I ever had in my life was with Corey and Angelo, and now I drink wine all the time. So it's funny how, you know, for me, I mean, it started at 13. I'm 37 now, so for me it was 24 years of being in this industry. But it's funny how everything kind of goes back to the way it was, right? So like, it started off for me, cigars, wine, you know, drinking scotch at 14, 15 years old, because, you know, you had to adapt, right? You're sitting there working in an environment with 28 to 30-year-old men, you know? It's not like today where there's 30-year-old boys. It was 30-year-old men that were running restaurants, and you had to adapt to them. So I felt like, for me, like the question I asked you earlier was, do I think it would have, I don't think that I would be where I am in life right now if it wasn't for the restaurant industry. And it just helped me, it helped me become, you know, an entrepreneur. It helped me become a really good chef. It helped me push myself every single day to get to certain spots, right? So like, for instance, like, I didn't have to leave Corey and Angelo and go work in New York City, but I felt like it was something I had to do, right? I needed to do that. That's what I needed, and needed it under my belt to know that this was gonna catapult me to the next level, right? Things like that. Like, you know, we joke around about it all the time, and I talk so much shit to you about it all the time, but like, you know, from that to selling baseball cards online.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, it's little things like that. It's just that entrepreneurial, aspect of my life all started because I watched Corey and Angelo literally pour themselves out and battle it out every single day to get to that next level, to be able to make a restaurant that sat 52 people make money. I mean, that shit's not easy, But so you got the nod, you came up. What happened next?
So next, just went from salads and then eventually making my way closer to making the world-renowned chicken Bella Luna signature dish.
It was, listen, man, I'll tell you, it was fucking delicious.
It was good.
Wait, you made that dish?
No,
No,
it was
okay,
Corey's,
okay,
but it was fucking delicious.
Yeah.
Man. It was probably number one selling thing I made. That and chicken scarf. Chicken scarf was fire.
Then learning how to make chicken scarpio, learning how to
And
make,
we still do it today.
yeah, learning how to make anyhow vodka. Like I understand like a lot of that stuff is, very, very, old school when it comes to like those mom and pop joints, and very, very hard to find here.
The
in
places
Atlanta.
that don't exist in LA?
Yeah.
What was the most pain in the ass dish on that menu to make?
Oh shit.
Fried calamari?
Nah.
No, but remember how much we used to give?
What, calamari? Oh, at least
It was like a quart worth of
Yeah,
calamari.
it was a lot.
It was insane.
It was a lot. I mean, honestly, the most pain in the ass thing on that menu, I don't know, maybe that Chilean sea bass.
Yeah, that Chilean sea bass was a pain in the ass. That's
Yeah.
why Corey still fucks with me these days, because I told him that was the last thing I ever want to make on that dish again. But it was good. But keep going.
Yeah. And then when after Bella Luna, and then I think that's when, what was it, a year or two?
You were still there when I went to work in New York City.
Yeah, you went to work in New York City. I was there for a little bit more, and then you came back. Then you went to Grand. Yep, you were the exec at Grand.
Which was a joke.
Yeah, that was like the first and only time I'll ever work at a nightclub,
But
restaurant.
For me, you gotta remember, for me, it was a move that I always wanted to make, right? I mean, would I make that move, if thinking back now, would I make that move again? Absolutely not. I was 23 years old. I had no business being an executive chef at 23 years old, right? No business. But it was one of those places where I felt like I kind of needed to do it, right? I kind of needed to go out there, feel like what it feels like to fail. Really, really sit there and be like, this is what I need to do to get myself to the next level, like we talk about all the time, right? So, Grand, I mean, that was a blip in the life.
Yeah.
But the next restaurant, though, I felt like it what kind of really solidified you as like, being a badass line cook.
Oh, Saltwater Grill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was pretty insane. That was the most like
I mean, dude, 700 covers on a Friday.
easy, a waterfront restaurant in
300
Stamford,
seats,
Connecticut. Like,
300 seats with multiple parties going on at once.
Yeah.
We had a line, and then we had a party line. God, the amount of people working in that restaurant. We had 30 servers on Friday and Saturday nights.
crazy.
It was
like
insane.
25 line cooks.
It was insane. And the craziest part about it was $50,000 fries on Saturdays, and me being a minimal partner, and my partner still couldn't make it work. Because you had 6 months of $180,000 weeks, and then you had 6 months, because you're on the water,
Right.
you had 6 months of $40,000 weeks, And it's funny, because I spoke to Billy probably like a month ago, and I was like, if I had that restaurant now, I'd make it work.
Oh, for
I
sure.
would do it. Just, I was 24 running that restaurant, so it's like, there's no business running a $10 million build out. I had no business doing that.
That restaurant was really beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was. It's torn down now.
Oh yeah.
But so Saltwater Grill, so my best line ever came from that restaurant. So walked them through the bolognese, the
Oh
debacle,
man, dude.
of 2008.
Yeah, so chef puts on a bolognese on the menu, right? Parpadella bolognese. So I'm on pasta station doing it, and I'm just having a real tough time with this bolognese. Can't figure out why. You showed me the first time. Usually I'm quick with it, pick it up, no issues. But like after the third and fourth one, I keep breaking this sauce. And I keep putting it up in the window, and he keeps giving it back. He's like, sauce is broken, sauce is broken. So after the fifth time, I'm like, chef, can you come show me this one more time? And because I'm
And Ant knows how I am, so this next line is gonna really set.
So he comes over and he goes, all right, I'm not gonna show me what you're doing. Let me see what's going on here. So I'm making the bolognese, and all of a sudden, like, I take this big wad of butter and I put it in the bolognese. He goes, that's your fucking problem. You're putting too much butter in the bolognese, you chubby motherfucker.
But I still remember the look I gave him when I saw him put literally, it was like 7 tablespoons of butter in his bowl.
And I literally stand there with like a blank face, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, that is the Sous Pat face, is the blank
Yeah,
face.
the blank
when
stare.
Pat's yelling at him.
Yeah, the blank stare.
So then I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
So then after that, obviously we adjusted the butter ratio to the bolognese, and it wasn't broken anymore.
That was the last restaurant I worked at when, you hear the stories, right? The chefs throw stuff and everything like that, but that was the first and only time I've ever thrown a plate in my life was when Gary came in the kitchen and asked for a linguine when there was no linguine on the menu.
Oh
there was one pasta on the menu, it was the pappardelle.
Yeah.
And he comes in and doesn't even ask, just puts in an order of linguine and clams. We don't have clams and we don't have linguine. And I lost it, man. I lost my mind. There's no
Where
way.
on the fucking menu do you see linguine or clams?
It was a mess. But the fun part about that restaurant for me was a couple things, right? One, the fact that, it's kind of really starting to figure out how it all works, right? What your food cost supposed to be, where your liquor cost supposed to be, all that stuff. Because I basically, for at least a good year, ran that by myself.
Mm-hmm.
There was no real manager for a while.
Yep.
So I was running a liquor list, I was running it all. It was that, but it was also, learning how to do parties, right? The parties thing for me was always, because Bellman never really had parties. We had parties once a year, and that's it.
Yeah.
Grand, we had parties, but it wasn't as Salvador Grill. We had designated party rooms, right?
Yeah.
So we're putting out 700 covers, and 3 parties of 150 apiece.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was insane. We were renting out the front patio, the top patio, renting out everything, and it was, to me, it really taught me the volume side of it, right? And then it's funny because you fast forward now, 10 years later, whatever it was, 15 years later, and Grana is basically the same volume Salvador Grill was doing. So like we're sitting here and we're putting out, insane amount of food every single week. So it helped, and then obviously with the addition of Chef Elliot being here and him doing the same exact thing, makes life easier. But it's crazy how you look back a couple of years and you're basically at the same spot in your life. You're just doing it a little differently this time, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's funny how I couldn't make it work at 25, but you can make it work at 37 just from, again, being in the restaurant business and not trying to learn from a teacher. It's not going to teach you how to work food costs and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys both know. I mean, that's the one thing that I'm on you guys about all the time, right? Is get me the numbers. I need to know it. Now, one of the biggest things for me is that, yes, there could be a way better manager and a way better chef out there than the two of you guys, but in my mind, you guys are the best ones for the role because you guys also have the personality to go with it, right? So for me, P&Ls don't run restaurants. So if people don't know what P&L is, profit and loss. Too many restaurateurs spend too much time focused on that. In the day, it's the personalities you have in the door that run your restaurants. It's not the P&L. P&Ls are important. That has to do for about 45% of it. It's 55% of it that has to do with the people that are in your building. Right? That's the most important thing to me. It's like, hiring people that may not be the best at their job, but they have a personality above and beyond that can really get your point across or get your restaurant to the next level, right? That's the most important thing. And I feel like we never had that at Salvador Grill.
Yeah.
We never had that personality. And for me, I was too busy doing everything and I couldn't do it, So it was, and again, 24, 25, running a $6 million restaurant just was insane, So now, we're done with saltwater. Where did we go after?
After saltwater, what did we do?
Let's just skip Greenwich Tower.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
that was
I don't wanna skip
that was my blip in my memory. I don't
Yeah.
want to remember that place.
There's a lot of blips in here.
Yeah.
And then we opened Pizza Rosso.
Yeah.
Yeah, we opened up the pizza.
Got sued 4 months later for the name. So
Yeah,
we had to
cease and
change the
desist
name to
order.
Cortina.
What?
There was a Rosso pizzeria in LA, and they made us change the name.
Yeah. I mean,
and-
we're pumping out pies out of a 500
dude,
square
not even.
foot.
It was awful. It was awful.
Yeah. No
It was
hood vent.
awful. Yeah, no hoods. It was just a pizza oven. We were cooking off butane burners. It was awful.
We're making chicken scarpa
Yeah,
off
dude,
butane
off
burners.
It was
Jeez.
awful. Well, tabletop fryer,
Yeah.
electric.
That's great.
It was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful. And then we opened the Bridgeport one,
Yep.
and that was a headache and a half.
Yeah, it
you know.
started great.
And a perfect example is it all has to do with your partners, right? I mean, if you guys have designated things that you're supposed to be getting done, it makes your life a little bit easier. But for over there, like, with Mo, it just didn't, he brought nothing to the table. It was all us, and we were doing all the work, and it just never got to where it was. And a lot of it has to do with your ego, right? Like, so Mo really wanted us to stay open past 2 o'clock. I was like, shut the restaurant down after 2. Didn't make any sense.
2 a.m.?
No, 2 p.m. because it was all lunch business. Bridgeport,
where was
Connecticut is one of those places where it is nothing but rough after 4 o'clock. So before that, though, it's all businesses. I mean, you have one of the biggest offices for UBS there. RBS was there. You have, you know, I mean, there's tons of stuff there. So for me, it was like, geez, keep begging to close at 2, close at 2, close at 2, and we just never did it. And all of the money we made from 10 to 2, we gave it all back plus some afterwards.
Right.
And plus, it just, the neighborhood just got so rough, you know, after 4 o'clock, and it just didn't make any sense. But then we opened Panzica.
Yeah, which I'll say off the rip right now, a lot of people will deny this back up in Connecticut, but we had the best restaurant running for those years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was one of those restaurants where, like, where we had it, first of all, it was what, 1,800 square feet?
Yeah.
So we sat 48 people. The restaurant did $1.3 million a year. I mean, that's volume for a restaurant like that has that.
Where in Connecticut was it?
So it was in Norwalk, Connecticut. And it was one of those places where I think really got our names, or just solidified the fact that we kind of knew what we were doing at that point, right? So like we've had, you know, at that point I had 3 failures and no wins, right? And then I go and test it. I mean, remember day 3, they turned the electric off because I forgot to pay the electric bill.
Oh man, I was like, oh jeez.
So I'm already,
what's going
here we
on?
go.
Yeah. So I opened the restaurant with $60,000 of the landlord's money. I put $15,000 of my own money into it, and then maxed out 4 credit cards at $20,000 a piece to get this restaurant open. So we were working at negative $100,000 from the rip, and it was rough, man. It was really rough, and I had to max out another credit card to get the electric on.
Yep.
And because you know, in Connecticut, God forbid they just let you put the electric back on. They hit you with a deposit plus what you owe.
Mhm.
So it was like a $5,000 credit card bill all off their rip. So it was rough though it was rough for the first 18 months.
Yeah.
First 18 months
Yeah.
that restaurant was rough.
Mhm.
But we had Joe at one point, and then you became the Sous after that. And I
Yep.
feel like after that is when it kind of hit its stride. I mean, you know, it, again, a little bit has to do with luck, right? I think that we had our grandmother on our side at that point where
Mhm.
she just passed away, and it was crazy. It was like she passed away on a Sunday or Monday, whatever it was. That next Tuesday, our sales doubled, and it never went away. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But it was one of those things where, you know, we were cooking her food. I mean, that's basically what we're doing at Grana, right? We're cooking her food. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all we're doing is we're cooking the food that the women in our lives taught us how to do.
Yeah.
My mom, my grandmother, your mother, you know, all that stuff. Like, that's all we. So, just so everybody's clear, Chef Pat here is my cousin. So
Yeah, we
Chef-
should have clarified
yeah,
that.
We should clarify that
So
from the beginning.
if you hear Anthony say Sous Pat,
Yeah.
that is the sous chef to Big Pat,
Yeah.
who is leading the show so far, which is Little Pat, his cousin. It's fucked up.
Yeah. But so Panzica opens, first 18 months was rough, and then we hit our stride,
Mhm.
right? And then Colin's born.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
so
and
now I'm
also,
kind of telling your story and my story at the same time.
well, I also think too the reason behind it. I mean, Panzica's success was also Meg, your wife.
Without a doubt. I mean, listen, the food could be as great as it possibly could be, but at the end of the day, you need the personality up front, right?
Mhm.
You need somebody that's going to be able to sit there and tell the story, right? So so we'll tell the story later about how Meg and I got together, but it was one of those things where you needed it, right? So you and I were running the show in the back of the house, and then, you know, Meg and I start dating. I steal her from Barcelona. She comes over, and it changed the game,
Mhm.
right? I mean, Meg and I started dating like when it first opened, but so Meg sat there through the first 18 months of I mean, like, trying to pay for Meg and I's wedding, making $0
Oh,
was
yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was rough. That was really rough. But you know, we got through it and everything like that, and after that I got better. But so now you're the sous chef of Panzica, and I hit you with I'm out selling the restaurant.
Oh
Until-
man, dude, that was. Still to this day, I couldn't believe it. I literally, I'll be honest. I was like, when you guys, both you and Meg, told me that you guys were, you know, we're gonna sell the place, we're gonna move down to Atlanta. I was like, no way. And it literally didn't hit me until that last night we all had dinner together, and then like I went home, you like whatever, and then like the next day I was like, damn,
He's gone.
he's gone.
Yeah.
He's like, I got like, so now Panzica got sold, and you know I stayed
Well,
on.
it was rough though for a little bit there, right? Because I left in
Oh
January.
no, I didn't sell right away.
I left in January.
We waited a little bit.
And people kind of started realizing that I wasn't there and Meg wasn't there because we kind of left like in the middle of the night and didn't tell anybody type ordeal. Because I didn't want the restaurant to fail because we weren't there. Because again, Meg and I just being so personality driven and kind of being in front of the restaurant all the time, I don't want people to feel that. So it kind of got you involved in the beginning, right? Saying, hey man, need you to start being the face, and need you to start being the face, need you to start being the face. And then Andrew helped at the front of the house, and then, but then it took, you know, like a year almost to solidify that sale.
Yeah.
Because of the SBA loan that he needed and all that other stuff. So it ended up being quite a disaster in the long run when, I mean, looking at it now, and I kind of got screwed out of the whole deal of the restaurant. But whatever, it is what it is, and it's karma, and it's not my karma, so. But I think, looking back at it now, that might have been one of the best things that ever happened.
I agree.
Was me hitting you with the bombshell of leaving, and then, hey, you know, stay there for a little bit, and when I give you the call, pack your shit up and let's go.
I knew.
That's basically what I said to him. Well, first of all, I had to make it dramatic, right? So, because that's how I live by, right? So I hand him my favorite knife. I just paid $1,000 for this knife. I go, here, dude. 'Cause I have a feeling this is the last time you and I are ever gonna work together. Yeah. Right? So I do that to him, and he's crying, I'm crying, because I mean, like, listen, at the end of the day, like, Pat's my cousin, but he's more of my brother than my brother is, so it's like one of those things where I just feel like, you know, he's my brother, so, and I was gonna miss the shit out of him, so I kind of had to leave him with something, right, and just kind of have to leave him with a little bit of a dig as well, like, get your shit together and then move, type thing. So I'm here, I was here for, you know, 10 months, 11 months, whatever like that. You came to visit with Tony and Marco. For a weekend, remember?
It was my birthday.
Yeah, and I go, oh, by the way, we're opening this restaurant, and I walked him by White Bull, and he goes, what do you mean we're opening this restaurant? I was like, yeah, I just signed the lease. He goes, get the fuck out of here. I was like, yeah. I go, so this is your notice right now. You have 5 months, and you need to be in Atlanta. And he goes back, he, you know, does what he has to do, gets through the year with the guy, Adam, that was running the restaurant at that point, gives his notice. You know, I mean, that was a disaster in itself, the way how it all happened, but February you were here.
Yeah.
So funny, because he talks so much shit to anybody that's not dating anybody, right? Is he goes, the minute I crossed the border, Adriana scooped me up. So Adriana being his girlfriend, it was the funniest thing ever, still to this day, that line. So you're here, you're in Atlanta, White Bull's not open yet, we're about to open, you meet Adriana, everything's going well, and then we open White Bull. And it felt kind of similar to Barsugo, right? Like the first 18 months
Yeah,
was really
it was
rough.
a little rough. It
Right.
was a little rough. It was like, it kept replaying in the head. It was like, oh, this again.
Yeah.
This whole, like, we're saying it to ourselves, like, we can never catch a break. It's just like, what is it?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Well, a lot of it had to do, I think, with the fact that we were new here, right? And Atlanta in the South tends to be very, we're going to take care of the people that have been here for a while before we take care of the newbies. So I think it took a little bit for us to solidify that we're here to stay and we're not going anywhere. Like, we blood, sweat, and tears that restaurant for the first 18 months to make sure that, you know, on weeks where we broke even or on weeks that we lost money, we figured it out, right? I mean, like, still to this day, like, we did it the same way. You know, we opened the restaurant for, you know, $200,000, and that's it. Like, that's all we had. You know what I mean? You put in some money, I put in a lot of it, I maxed out a ton of credit cards, like, that's all we had, right? So 18 months goes, we're hitting our stride. What happens after that? What hit?
Oh, COVID.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Awful.
That was right there. I literally remember just sitting there in the office one day, and
I remember handing you your first check, saying, "Here, the restaurant's making money. Here's
Yeah.
your check." And then I remember going back to him 2 months later, and I go, "Hey, I had to give my money back. Can you give yours back?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yes," and he cuts it back. So we now took all this money out because we were finally making money. We finally made money for the year, and we had to give it all back.
Yeah.
And then we took it and we fixed the restaurant. Like, I mean, basically we added floor to ceiling windows in the front. You know, we basically turned that restaurant into what it is now. And then, you know, when June came around and we reopened, because we closed for a few months to get like our bearings right, because you and I were smart from the beginning, man. You, I, and Brian, now that Brian's invested in Grana and White Bull, we knew this wasn't going to last 2 weeks. So, and I don't like to touch on COVID a lot because to me it's just one of those things where I don't think we need to talk about it a lot. But it kind of changed the game, right, for us for a couple of reasons. One, White Bull's killing it. We added the back patio. You know, even the inside's killing it now. Like, you know, I think our food's better than it's ever been. I think our cocktail and our wine program is definitely better than it's ever been. Thank you to Anthony. But on top of it, I feel like we're finally getting sort of that recognition that we always wanted, right? And a lot of that, I mean, the reason why I wanted you two to be on here first is a lot of that has to do with you two, right? It doesn't, like, I can build it, I can create a menu, but you two need to run it every single day. So, and you know, it was one of those things that when I had you guys on, I say thank you enough, I just don't say it enough at a time. So it's one of those things where I wanted to thank you guys publicly.
On the record.
On the record. for being as good as you guys are. I know I'm not easy to work with. I know I'm not the easiest person to get along with all the time, but it's one of those things where I want to push you guys as hard as I've been pushed my entire life, because I know when the time comes and I tap you guys and I'm like, hey, cut a check because we're opening this, and this restaurant, you guys have enough faith in me and I have enough faith in you knowing that this restaurant's going to do fine.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're here. It's, I don't know what day it is, but we're in July 2021.
Friday, July 2nd.
Yeah, and we kind of have a little announcement before Anthony starts, right?
Yeah.
So, end of this year, our restaurant team here, Grana White Bull, a couple things. Our new restaurant group is going to be called the Porchetta Group. So one of the reasons being is our logo is going to be a flying pig, and I mean, you guys will learn over time about what kind of person I am and how I grew up, but my entire life I was told that couldn't do something until pigs fly. So our logo is a flying pig, and it's kind of me saying, pigs are flying now, motherfucker. I think it'll be fun on that aspect of it, but so we have a restaurant group now, and now we're about to open our third restaurant, right? So this is kind of the announcement as well with you'll see it all over the internet very soon, but we're opening Bastone. So Bastone is going to be our mozzarella bar, salumi bar with very innovative pasta, basically White Bull elevated even a little bit more, with an insane wine program, because that's what we were initially, our thought process was going to be on that, and a very, very good cocktail program. So just in case nobody knows where that is, we're going in West Midtown, and we're going to take over the old Picado space. So we're going to go on 887 Howell Mill Road, and Bastone is the ace of clubs in the Italian Neapolitan card deck, and it's one of those things, again, because of you'll learn how I am, but it's one of those things where our grandfather, when he had that card, used to slam it on the table.
Oh, 'cause he knew it was over.
It
was over. Game over.
And it's our way of slamming ourselves and solidifying ourselves in this Atlanta restaurant scene by putting a restaurant in West Midtown. So I'm pumped to announce it with you guys, because I think we're gonna kill it there. Obviously, putting really good Italian food in West Midtown, I think, has been needed for a while. So I'm really excited about that.
And some good wine.
Yeah, very good wine. 140 to 160 seats. 100 of it being outside, 60 of it inside. Insane mozzarella program. And the pasta program there is going to be out of control as well. A little bit of a small PDR, private dining room. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So now it's Anthony's turn. Where did it all start for you?
So now I'm in Georgia, but originally I'm from South Florida. I grew up with my two wonderful parents and my sister. I moved here when I was 10. My parents were in the cosmetology world, and they just wanted to get out of Florida. They got tired of hurricanes and all that stuff, and we moved up here when I was 10. My sister was pissed. It was her senior year of high school. And
I'd be pissed too.
I was pissed because I just couldn't imagine being away from the beach or cold weather. So
that's one thing I don't miss is the snow from Connecticut.
Yeah,
definitely not.
No.
Season change is nice, but I'm already tired of it. I just want
to eat.
Like, my ultimate goal in life, before I even talk about myself, my ultimate goal in life is to get by the beach. So that's how you guys know who I am. But yeah, so I moved here when I was 10, and moved up to Canton, Georgia, which is very far from Atlanta.
Well, beautiful.
It's beautiful. I appreciate it more now that I'm older and mature than I did when I first moved here. But it's about 45 minutes to an hour north, depending on, or really 2 hours, depending on how Atlanta traffic feels. North of Atlanta, and my first ever friend I made, very southern accent, unlike people I met in Florida. My parents are originally from New York, so it was already a culture shock for me to get here. And then my first day of school, I passed a junkyard and a graveyard to get to school. So that was also one of those, Dad, where the hell are you taking me type of things. And he was like, oh, you're going to school. I'm like, okay. A little bit of ring-a-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding. And then, fast forward, I ended up making a lot of friends because I was decently good at basketball. So, joined the team and, made a lot of friends, and everyone, I was different because obviously I was from South Florida.
I didn't say different because of the height.
No, not the height difference, but that's always been a problem. But yeah, so I was very, being raised the way I was, like I was very straightforward with people. A lot of, everyone jokes around about the South being nice, and beating around the bush on certain things, and it kind of does. It's refreshing in a way sometimes, but for the most part, people still need to hear what they need to hear. So that's how I was as a kid, and I still am to this day. And it was kind of like I had a culture shock. It was a culture shock for those other people too. So luckily, I gained a lot of respect early growing up around the neck of the woods where I was. So stayed in Canton all the way through high school, graduated, made a lot of good friends. I keep a very small circle of friends, and all my best friends are still my best friends to this day. They were my best men at my wedding. I didn't have one singular best man. So if it wasn't for Canton, I definitely wouldn't be who I was today. But now I'm in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta, I think I was about 22, and I've been living here ever since. I was always in the restaurant biz, so 14 years old as well was my first dishwashing job. The restaurant people asked me to get a working permit. I said, screw that, just pay me and we'll be all right. So it was an Italian restaurant. It was not good, but it was an Italian restaurant, so I at least
Not
felt...
many of them in Atlanta.
Yeah, or especially in Canton.
Yeah.
So I felt at home at least, and I was, a dishwasher, so I kind of grew up like Sous Pat did. That's a little pet. And I kind of saw like guys yelling at each other, cussing around, shooting the shit. Just things getting said that I'm just like, wow, did he just really say that to him? And then they just hugged it out at the end of the night and went on to work, had a drink or whatever. It was kind of reminiscent of just how my family was growing up. So, where your stereotypical like loud New Yorker Italian family, like we yell at each other, we curse at each other, but in the end we hug it out. We have a glass of wine or a drink, smoke a cigar, and we're good. So to me, it was just really nostalgic being in the restaurant biz.
Do you feel like your favorite part of the restaurant business is the chaos?
Yes, I'm a sucker for chaos.
I agree.
I love chaos. That's one
Controlled
thing.
chaos.
Yes, but
Not
I
like
want to
the
be
restaurant burning down.
right. But I
More
want to
like
be. That's the thing. I want to be the controller. I'm like a very much grab the bull by the horns type
putting
of
out
person.
fires.
Yeah.
Like problem solving.
Yeah, and which is another thing culinary school ain't going to teach you about.
No.
Front of the house, at least.
No.
May teach you how to do it in the back of the house, but not front of the house. So yeah, that's just my thing. Is I like seeing where the problem is and fixing it. Whether it's in the restaurant biz, whether it's in my life, whether it's in someone else's life, I'm a big helper. And I feel like I always want to have an answer for something, even though you can't always have it.
Oh, you definitely always have an answer for something.
That I do. At least for him, I do.
So let me cut you off real quick. So you're in Atlanta.
Yep.
Right. You're doing your restaurant thing.
Yep.
How did you become so good at wine? Where did that come from? Because you got a palate, I feel like me and my wife and I have, where you recognize it, you're good at it. So for me, I look at wine in a different way, right? So like I think wine is subjective, right? So if I like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. And that's where I think wine is different than a lot of other things, right? At the end of the day, a dish of pasta, if it's seasoned correct and everything, it's really not bad. It's good. It's good no matter what. Pasta. But with wine, like for me, right? I'm not a huge Cabernet guy unless it's blended. I don't like Chardonnay at all, but it's funny because growing up, being in the restaurant business and being with older dudes the whole time, that's all I drank was California Cabs and California super oaky Chardonnays.
Well, you were working at really nice restaurants too.
Yeah, but now I can't stand them.
That's
right. So now it's about, for me, I mean, again, because I'm Italian and the French doesn't exist to me. I'm all about, really good whites from Campania. And reds from everywhere.
Shouts out Valentino.
Yeah,
Best
exactly.
white grape ever.
Exactly. And then for the reds, like for me, if somebody was like, "Hey, what is your favorite Italian red varietal right now?" Not a Barolo, not a Barbaresco. For me, it's Sagrantino. I need to chew my red wines. Like that's what it tastes like.
Anybody from over here, if you got a connection,
Yeah.
shoot it over here to Georgia. There ain't none in Georgia. We need some Sagrantino.
So, how did you get into wine?
So, I hate telling this story, but I love telling this story. I hate it because it's actually a French grape, but luckily it's not from France, so we're okay with that. But so my whole life, obviously, there was alcohol in the house. Again, Italian parents. My first glass of wine was at 6 years old. Not going to tell you my parents' government name, so they can't get in trouble. But I turned out okay. It was one of those things where I guess it was just like growing up in any other European family. You know, they give you a taste here, a taste there, because you're a curious kid, and you just over time you drink it and you make the grimaces on the face from red wine because no kid, if they ever take a sip of red wine, likes it. You know, my grandfather would give me a little bit of his Miller Lite out in the yard every now and then, just give me a sip. It tasted like piss water because it is piss water.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I guess, developed a palate young, I guess, for alcohol. I'm not really sure. But I've always had a palate in general. Like my mother's Puerto Rican and Jamaican, for those of you who don't know, and then my father's Italian. So there was a lot of really good food growing up, and a lot of diverse food growing up. And then also we were all foodies. So
that's funny because one of my favorite things about your parents, because we've all become friends over time, but is the fact that your dad cooks better Puerto Rican food than your mom, and your mom cooks better Italian food than your dad.
Yeah, I don't know
and
how that ended up
That's
working
why I
out.
think it's the funniest thing
It's
ever.
hilarious. I have no idea.
What's
to this
that?
Day.
You had us over. You had the ropa vieja.
Oh yeah, ropa
That was
vieja.
still to this day one of my favorite dishes I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because there's probably some Cuban person listening to this
Yeah.
and they're gonna claim it.
Oh yeah, of course.
But Puerto Ricans claim
course.
ropa vieja, but the joke is that Puerto Ricans take Cuban food and just make it better.
Yeah, that's great.
So whether that's true or not.
So now you have a palate for wine. You know you've always had it. You've always tasted it.
Right. So
how did that go from that to wanting to do that in restaurants? And then in here as well, you got to talk about your craze for cigars. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, it's funny, we were just talking about, what did we have, 4 each the other day when we were sitting there at
yeah, we had 4 to 5.
Burn at Rocky Patel.
Yeah, Burn at Rocky Patel at the Battery. Great little lounge if you haven't been. But so yeah, my palate, I guess, was always developed somewhat for flavor. And then where did I start working? So I got old enough to buy my own stuff. And like everyone else, I started off with one wine and just went because I realized when I was serving, because this was when I grew up, I started serving because that's where I could make money and still have a flexible schedule. I just started learning wine one grape at a time, so I would buy single varietal wines and just learn them. And then I started working at a steakhouse, and it kind of forced me to really learn wine because people were there to spend money, and people just wanted to be directed on what to drink with their steak, whether it was a porterhouse, whether it was a ribeye. It doesn't matter because
So not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
do you feel like that's basically one of those things I talk about all the time, right? I feel like when you go out to dinner, or when somebody comes out to dinner, maybe 1 in 5 know what they want, know what they're gonna do. The other 4 and 5 want to be told what to eat and what to have.
yeah,
right?
everyone goes out to eat for an experience of some sort.
Exactly.
You might as well eat it.
So for me, like, one of our favorite things that we do is Flavio that works for us, right? Is when he goes to a table and goes, have you been here before? And their answer is no. He always asks, how about you let me create the experience for you? Picks the bottle of wine, picks all that stuff. And we always figure out a way to, make it so that we're not hitting anybody over the head with the price. But we want them to taste a bunch of stuff, right? Because for us as chefs and as sommeliers and all that stuff, like, this is our day. This is our time to show off, right? Like, all we want to do is show off. Like, one of the best things is when another chef or another restaurant owner comes in, because all we do is ball them out. We say it all the time. We ball them out, right? We try to give them the best we possibly can. It's like, it's like a couple of these chefs from the city, like George Yu that owns Nuna and all these other restaurants all across town. When he comes into my restaurant, I'm not giving the guy pork belly, right? Because that's what he knows. He's Korean, he knows pork belly. When he comes to my restaurant, I'm going to give him the best dish of pasta he's ever had in his life, because he doesn't get that every single day, right? So for me, I love it when guests let us do that, right? Because you're allowing us to create your experience for you. You're allowing us to do what we do best and show off to you. So that's why I think it's fun when you say, like, when people come in, they want us to pair their wine for them. That's, to me, it's genius. Like, we should always be able to do that.
Well, it also goes with the pairing aspect. I realized that when you start diving into dry aged steaks and different things, like, there's obviously different flavors of each increment of dry aging. 72 is going to be funkier, 24 days is going to be a little easier. 28, my favorite sweet spot, tends to carry out a real good nuttiness to it. So certain wines go with that. And then when I was working at the steakhouse, there was a lot of old heads there, career-long servers, and I realized the money that they would make and how they dictated their tables. I would just sit back and watch, and it was just one of those things where I was like, man, these guys are pulling out, like, they're not. It's not even like they're pulling out all the stops. They're just kind of telling their tables what to do. So I pulled them aside and asked, and one lady was, like, 3 of them were somms, and one lady was really good with with white wine. One guy was really good with red wine, and the other guy was just really good at selling, you know? So I just took everything from all of them and kind of made it into my own little spiel and thing when I started. But then I realized all the things they knew about were either California or French wine,
Yeah.
which tends to be the thing here.
Well, I mean, that's Atlanta, right?
It
Atlanta
is.
in general.
It's super California French wine.
Yeah, they don't really want to give Italy the chance that it deserves. But the good thing, though, is that there's restaurants like us and there's restaurateurs like us that are going to sit here now and not push it down your throat, but we are going to show you what Italy has, right? We're going to show you, you know, a Greco di Tufo from Campania. We're going to show you an Arnese from Piedmont. We're going to bring you. We're gonna. Now, I don't like using the word "we're going to teach you," but we're going to guide you through the process, right?
Because I mean, it's a overwhelming thing. Like,
Yeah.
if you got France and California, luckily they have two of the same grapes, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, exactly.
And then everyone's like, oh, I like Cabernet, so they drink
Yeah.
it. But when you go to Italy, you're just like, a lot of people, if they see Cabernet on an Italian bottle, they're like, Cabernet's not Italian.
Yeah.
And then they think they push it off, or they just don't know what to get instead of a Cabernet. So I saw.
It's like when I see an Italian blend and it's got Merlot on it, I skip.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
So yeah. So now you're doing wine. You like wine. I want to push to this because.
Hold on. So, you know me. I'm the same as you. Like, I'm an Italian boy. So Italian wine is my love of my life, right? So nobody there at the steakhouse knew Italian wine. By the time I was done with that steakhouse, I had all the Psalms and everyone else coming up to me and calling me the Italian wine boy. And because I was selling $300 bottles of Super Tuscan over the
That's
cap.
awesome.
So
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of got into it. And then my wife brought me home one bottle one time. My wife used to be a wine rep, and one of her stores was doing this big closeout. It's like a $200 bottle of Malbec, and I hate French Malbec. I really don't like any French wine. I joke around and say that, but to me it all tastes like over steeped black tea. But you know, there's gonna be a lot of hate on that, but that's just me. So Argentinian Malbec is huge to me. I love it because I love beef. We'll probably get into that later.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of beef. So just Malbec and either, you know, grilling some steak at the house or whatever, it's a great pairing to me, aside from what I would typically drink as far as Italian reds go. So she brought me home 2005 Catena Alta. I'll never forget this. And I kind of like pushed it off to the side, and because every Malbec I had was like Publix Malbec, you know, it's just trash. So I was just like, babe, it's Malbec, I don't want. She's like, no, you should really try it, it's good. And I was like, all right, fine. So I opened it up, you know, swirled it around, let it breathe for like 30 minutes, came back, swirled it around again, smelled it, and I was like, shit. I was like, it smells really good. So I tried it, and from the moment, you know, it touched my lips, my eyes just lit up, and it made me realize what real wine could taste like, and when it's treated properly, grown properly, made properly. Like, that blew my mind, because every prior Malbec I ever had, I hated, and at that point I was just like, this is Malbec and it can taste like this, and it blew my mind from then on. So that's how I kind of got my love for wine. Was that?
So, how'd you get into cigars? Because that's intriguing to me, your cigar knowledge.
All right, so with wine and cigars, and later on maybe you'll find out like nutrition and all these other things that I love. I'm one of those people that if I find something that I really like, I just dive head first into it, and for like 2 to 3 months, you can't stop me you can't slow me down from learning more about that.
That's why I don't buy guns.
Yeah, I just got my first pistol, and I'm afraid of how much I'm gonna go into it.
Nice.
But shouts out Georgia, thank you for that. So yeah, we one day, Puerto Rico, 2014, 13.
Oh, so you've been in them for a little while.
Not really. So, but it started there.
On and off.
Was my first ever cigar.
Okay.
It was with my father, because, you know, we were in Puerto Rico. We were at the farmers market in San Juan, and this guy, his name is Papiro, and Papiro and his father both left Cuba, brought over their Cuban seeds, and started growing them in Puerto Rico. If anyone knows geography, Puerto Rico and Cuba are right next to each other. But the Puerto Rican soil isn't as good as Cuban soil, so Cuban soil has a lot more minerality to it. Very much similar to wine, which is also how I got into cigars. So we tried them. We thought they were the best cigars ever in our life. We were like, man, they're hand rolled right there the day before. They're, you know, delicious. And they were. They're good, decent cigars. And then, you know, we took a bunch back on the plane back to Georgia. And we had them in a humidor for like over a year and, you know, just finally chiefed them all down. And then we, you know, before we left, Papito was like, hey, I shipped to America, just let me know. We're like, okay, cool. So we called him up like a year later. He only speaks Spanish, so my mom always had to be the one to call him because she knows she could speak to him. And we got another order, and we gave him out to our neighbor, and he's like, man, these are great too, but he didn't really smoke cigars either. And we were just like, man, we love these cigars, yada, yada. And then I kind of just stopped because, I don't know, it was one of those things where every time I smoked a cigar, like I would get zits, and like my face would break out. It doesn't anymore, I don't know why, and it was just pissing me off. And I felt like dirty the next day because I'd have to get up and like go work out or do other things.
Plus, it's not a cheap habit.
No, it wasn't
by any
cheap.
means.
No. So, you know, I kind of put them off for a couple years, and then quarantine hit. So back to the COVID thing. Quarantine hit. I graduate college.
You get married.
I got married, graduated college. 2020 was a dope year. Everyone complains about it. I think it's good. Life is what you make it.
Yeah.
So 2020, got married, graduated college. And when I graduated college, I got a sports management degree because I didn't know if I wanted to go. This was all while I left the restaurant biz because I didn't know if I wanted to be in it or not. So I got a sports management degree. I didn't want to get a regular business degree. Been around sports my whole life. I was like, let me do kind of the best of both worlds. So did that. And then all of a sudden, COVID hits. Sports are done, so I had no way to start a career. So I'm chilling at home, and you know, watching Netflix, feeling like a bum because my wife, again, she was a wine rep for grocery stores, so she was booming day in and day out. She had her best months was during that. She'd wake up at like 6 in the morning and not get home till 8, 9 o'clock. So I felt bad. I mean, I made dinner for her and had the house clean and all that stuff, but I still felt like a lazy bum just sitting there chilling. So I, Googled, tried to learn some things. I was reading books also, and then I guess I was on Google one day and it just popped up that there was a cigar lounge like in walking distance from our apartment. And I was like, oh, let me go check it out. So I went and grabbed like 2 or 3 cigars, started talking to the guy. Jay's Cigars. Jay is a little old man. He's awesome. I think he doesn't run it anymore, but still.
No, Big Al runs it.
Yeah, Big Al runs it now. Yeah, so it's Jay's Cigars though, over on was it like Howell Mill Road.
Yeah,
near?
it's like DeFore.
Yeah, DeFore's Ave and Howell Mill Road on the west side of Atlanta. But yeah, so went and got 3 sticks. Explained the first stick to the guy that I ever had, which was the Puerto Rican one, and he's like, "Oh, this will be similar. You'll like this, but it's Nicaraguan filler, so it's gonna be a little more peppery. And then this is Dominican, so you get a little more nutty, chocolatey notes. And then this is San Andreas." And I was just like, "Okay, cool, whatever." Very much again, so my wine mind is running. It's very much similar to wine, different terroirs and leaves, which would be the grapes and all these things. And I was just like, "Okay, cool." Prior to this was all at my bachelor party. We went to Tampa, which is Cigar City, and that's really when I had one of my favorite cigars ever. Tabanero Cigars, San Andreas Maduro,
Which I'm
Torpedo.
still waiting for, by
I
the
still
way.
got to buy one for Chef Pat. That's really the thing that got me onto it. Then I came back because the bachelor party was during the semester. So came back to Georgia, quarantine hit, fast forward back to where we were. Was hoping to have a cigar very similar to that one. Had the Nicaraguan one that he gave me first. It was okay. It was good, but it wasn't what I wanted. Then I had the Dominican, which was really good. Had that chocolatey note that this Tabanero cigar had. And then I had this San Andreas wrapper one, and then I fell in love with it. And after that, I was like, well, let me see what this cigar from Tampa was made up of. And come to find out, it was Dominican filler, a little bit of Nicaraguan filler to kind of give it more body and more spice, and then it was a San Andreas wrapper from Mexico. And after that, I started realizing how many different combinations of wrappers and fillers and binders and all these things. And I was just like, this is just like blending grapes.
Yeah.
It is literally an art just like blending is, and it's intriguing. So my love for wine and cigars, I guess, kind of goes hand in hand, which then also probably goes into my love for rum and things like that too.
So COVID hits, you get married, you come into this amazing restaurant one afternoon called Grana,
Yeah.
and you bring your entire family.
before that, well, yeah, you can talk about that.
Okay, go ahead.
But then I want to hear about the stage that you performed
You don't want to hear
in the
about the
kitchen.
stage. You don't want to hear about the stage. Let's skip the stage.
Skip the stage then.
But Anthony comes in one night with his family and Blake, which is one of our sous chefs here now at Grana. And again, it's one of those things where I said Flavio kind of took reins and was like, you know what, I'm going to show you guys exactly what we're all about. And then, like a couple weeks later.
So can I preface this with saying that I've been wanting to go to Grana like since at least 6 months before it opened. As soon as they started their Instagram page, it like got showed on my Instagram from the algorithm, and I was like, oh, Meatball Flights, this place is gonna be legit. Like, I saw a picture of the chef. I was like, oh, he's one of us.
Yeah.
But this is good. and I've been dying to go. You know, they got pushed back because of COVID and building a new restaurant. It never goes as planned. And then my father, you know, I show him this place and he's like, oh, it looks legit. And you put on a pizza, what was it, Cheech?
Yeah, with the tomato jam and the sausage.
Yeah, Cheech is what my father used to call, or my grandfather used to call my father.
No, it's funny,
so
that's what we call each other.
Yeah, they called each other that. So he saw that and he's like, all right, we got to go.
Yeah.
And then this bastard one day he goes without me.
Yeah.
The first time he ever goes with my mother was
Yeah.
without me. He's like, hey, guess where we are? And I'm like, where? And he's like, oh, we're at Grana. And I was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's really good. I'm like, you know what? I'm done talking to you for the rest of the week.
You're not leaving.
I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. I was like, you call me when you're ready to go. So we walk into Grana. My parents were already here. They were waiting on us. We had traffic. And we got here. They're talking to Ryan, who's the GM here over at Grana. And, you know, he's just being real nice and cordial with my parents, you know, shooting the shit with my dad.
Did you get us a can of tomatoes?
Yep, gave my dad a case of, can of San Marzanos,
Yeah.
which, if anyone knows my father,
That's the key to his heart.
that is one of the keys to his heart, that and bourbon.
So how'd you go from coming in that day to now GM at White Bull?
So,
I kind of suckered you into it. Right?
Flavio catered the whole experience, which was great. It was, because when we go out and eat, it's an experience. Like, we don't go out to eat to get a quick bite, and if we do, you know, maybe Chinese food or like pizza or whatever, like, but of course you got to order well done around here. So well done New York slice wherever we go. And so we came here, and, you know, me being a server, my wife being, you know, a former server in the industry, my parents being, they've been to a lot of restaurants in their lifetime, foodies, all that stuff, and they were just like, you know, Flavio comes up and he's like, hey, I'm Flavio, I'm going to take care of you, yada, yada, yada. And, oh no, that's what it was. I was waiting on my parents. I ordered a bottle of Frappato, and nobody in this state had Frappato on their menu. And I love Frappato. I love any Sicilian red. And Flavio looks at me and he goes, are you Italian? And I go, yeah. And he goes, where are you from? And I was like, oh, my father, you know, from Sicily, Naples. And I was like, you'll see when you get here, you'll notice. And he's like, okay. He goes, all right, I'll be back. So he gets a bottle of wine. We're drinking out and waiting for my parents. And then my parents sit down, he introduced himself. My father gets like Campari and soda, which also kind of threw Flavio in the loop. Flavio thought he was back up north. And then my mom got Campari and orange juice, which he always drinks. And so he was like already head over heels. So he came back, dropped off the drinks, grabs our menus, and we're like, we're not ready to order. And he's like, Chef and I want to make this. Chef and I just want to kind of send you guys out some. Is that okay with you? And I was just like, yeah, sure. And so Flavio, being Flavio, very boisterous and crazy, he takes the menus, makes a scene, crumbles them up, flicks his head backwards. He's like, I'll be back. And I was like, okay, cool. We take care of you. And I was like, all right, cool. So,
well, I remember we gave you the entire experience that day. We brought you in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I was making dough.
Yeah, they were throwing out food that
was
insane, like unlike anything I'd had except for at home or my grandmother made, and but also stuff that was a little more legit than my grandmother had made as far as pure Italian food, because my grandmother was Italian American. It was her parents who were off the boat, came from Italy, so I never got to eat their food. So my grandmother would always make chicken cutlets, you know, tomato sauce, all this stuff, but it was just more of the Americanized version. Pat and Sous Pat, they were raised here, so they have a really good dichotomy of the Italian American stuff, also because they were up north and learning how to do things up north. So there's a lot of that up there, but they also were gracious enough to have, or luckily enough to have, you know, their family, which was really off the boat compared to my family, and they got taught.
Having the immigrant.
Yeah, the whole
parents,
immigrant
everything else.
aspect was totally different. I mean, their grandfather had, you know, his own garden. You know, everyone jokes around and knows no one's garden, but it's
Yeah.
true. Like, that's what they had. They were, like, people think I was stereotypical, but Sous Pat and Chef are way more stereotypical than I am. But that was great seeing them, and then also they were just, you know, a couple loud, not give two shits type of Italian guys from up north, and I didn't have that down here. Anybody who was like, "Oh, I'm Italian," from down here was like, not really Italian. You know, their grandmother made like sausage balls or whatever those things are. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but so when I found them, I was like, man, I think these are the people I've been looking for my whole life. It's like, this is great. You know, I felt like I knew them from day one. But yeah, so they gave us the whole experience. Food was incredible. My dad's like damn near crying at the dinner table with all the food he just ate because he was so happy. Because he's been waiting for a place like this in Atlanta forever since we moved here, basically. And so then Ryan was taking care of us along with Flavio, and Flavio comes by after dinner and he's like, "Hey, chef's making dough right now. Do you want to come in the kitchen and you know talk to him and see and watch him make dough?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." So my dumbass, let me just point out to the fact that I was bringing glass in the kitchen. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I was like 4 glasses of wine deep already though, so I wasn't even thinking about it. But yeah, so we walk in and chef's in the back right corner. If you know Grana, that's where the dough is.
So listen, you know I love you, right? But you got to land this plane, my man.
Sorry,
we got
we're gonna
to
land.
cut this short soon.
But so,
how'd you become GM of White Bull?
oh shit, we're on that. I thought we were talking about the experience. So GM of White Bull, I get suckered into being a manager here. Don't know how that happened still, but
That was
I
Ryan.
did.
You didn't make it in the kitchen.
Yeah, right. So that, and then Pat sits me down one day, and
Kevin was leaving
White Bull, and he just told me, he's like, he kind of gave me no choice. He was like, you kind of got to be manager or GM of White Bull, and I was just like, you shitting me? And he's like, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, okay, well, can I think about it? He's like, you got like 5 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I gotta call my wife. And he's like, well, she better answer. And I'm like, okay. So I called her. Again, this was like me not being sure if I wanted to come back and like be solidified in the restaurant biz. So I was like very hesitant, but I also had a kid on the way. So I was like, you know, it's kind of probably a good idea to do it. We're not going anywhere as a restaurant group goes. So I'm like, at least I'm not worried about this thing dying out. So, so I call her and she's like, why the hell wouldn't you take it? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I thought you were gonna like play devil's advocate. She's like, no. She's like, you should probably take it. She's like, what else are you gonna do right now? And I was like, yeah, you're right. So, so I sit back down, and I'm still kind of giving him this like hard kind of like, I don't know, like breaking his balls a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's like, you can have full reign of the wine list at White Bull, and I was just like, all right, I'm in. That's it. All right, I got it.
I knew the key to this art.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we got to wrap it up because we got some work to do. So we got to run the restaurant. So real quick, spitfire questions for you guys. 1-word answers. Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Coke.
I don't know if I would say that. This is Anthony, the GM of White Bull. Please don't hurt him next time you go in. Etna Rosso or Alianico?
Etna Rosso, without a doubt.
Alianico.
Oh man, this is turning out good.
I thought we were friends, bro.
Snickers or Reese's?
Oh,
Reese's. All right.
All right, you ready? Grana or White Bull?
White Bull.
Oh man! All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today, and see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Cool.
That was great.
That was lovely.
I want to do more of those spitfire questions at the end. I think those are fun.
Yeah. I think you should do more of those.
Alianico, really?
I'm on Alianico.